I want to welcome our viewers and listeners today here for our discussion with the district. Hi, my name is Salima Moolji, and I am the Executive Director, and I'm also a commercial broker here in Dallas. I will be hosting today's conversation. We will be talking to our Dallas 2030 district member, Patricia Kyle, the general manager at the Union Dallas and Uptown. I'm excited how the Union Dallas is helping the Dallas 2030 district get one step closer to our 2030 goals. We'll be hearing all the insights and exciting things that Patricia and her team have been up to and what's in store for the future. But before we get started, I would like to tell you a little bit more about the district. We were established back in 2015 with just a handful of founding members. We have grown significantly since then. The Dallas 2030 district is a collaborative effort to create a high performance building district in Dallas. Every year, we strive to develop realistic, measurable, and innovative strategies to assist commercial property owners and managers, developers, tenants in meeting our aggressive goals to reduce environmental impacts of commercial facilities in both construction and operations. Our 2030 goals are reducing our energy, water, and transportation by 50% by 2030. I also want to share with you that just a handful of organizations that actually measure our goals in our annual impact reports. To sum it up, the Market Transformation nonprofit initiative focused on creating a high performance, low emission building district here in Dallas. With that, I'd like to introduce Patricia Kyle, the general manager at the Union Dallas and Uptown. Welcome, Patricia. I'm so glad that you were able to join us to have this discussion today. I would like to hand it over to you so that you can do a quick introduction of yourself and the Union Dallas.
Well, thank you, Salima. I appreciate the invite and listening to a little bit about what we're doing here at the Union. So a little background, as Salima mentioned, I'm the general manager at the Union in Uptown Dallas. Red Development is the management group and was the original developer of the property. I have been with Red Development 5 years. They're based out of the Phoenix, Arizona location. I have been in Dallas for 3 years. I moved in the middle of the pandemic, and think every day that I picked the absolute perfect place. I can't imagine being anywhere else, which is odd because I kind of like the cooler weather. So the hot weather down here is not great, but it's okay.
We are in our own country of Dallas, Texas.
Well, agreed. And of course, Arizona is no cool gem itself, right? It's hot, but definitely love it here. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. My life has definitely taken a complete turn, and this building has been an amazing experience. So the Union is 800,000 square feet of property, and part of Red's vision when building it was to have a location that we could live, play, and work in. So we've got office tower, we've got residential, we've got 7 different restaurants on the property, as well as 58,000 square feet of grocery space in an urban living area. So it's an amazing piece of property. And then the location gives us the unique ability to tie Uptown, downtown, and Victory Park all together to kind of have that walkability, the lifestyle that you want in a downtown area while still being able to do everything in one spot. So it's been an exciting last 3 years, and we are looking forward to doing more things as we get a little older and a little more mature in the building.
Well, it was really exciting because I know that, we toured the building once it was up and then again last year. And so, your team is doing some amazing work. Jeff was leading the tour and he was so passionate about everything that he was talking about. It was like his own children. So it was really wonderful to see that connection to the building as well between you and your team and how much pride you take into it. So that really says a lot for your team and the building itself. Thank you for that, Patricia. But I think that our listeners and viewers really want to know, what does sustainability mean to you, and what does it mean to the Union Dallas? And you also mentioned red development, and what does that mean to them as developers as well?
So sustainability to us, of course, always means thinking with an energy efficient and green mindset, right? Always looking for the right things to put into the building. How can we be efficient? How can we make sure we're staying green and we're not, you know, being healthy for the environment? I think for us, it means that. I think it means ensuring that our tenants have a healthy, energy efficient environment because they're all looking for those same types of thought processes, especially in their spaces. They're all looking to get their individual fit wells, their individual LEED certifications, and so with that, right, comes all of the energy efficiency. Red definitely continues as a developer to look for those things as we build new buildings. We learn from what we didn't do in the previous building and take it forward and kind of take it the next step forward in the next building. So always evolving and always changing, but making sure that we're hitting those goals like we have in the 2030, trying to
I
reduce and
love
have
the
that
fact
net
that
zero.
I love the fact that you're taking those best practices and reapplying it and saying, well, we didn't do this here, but if we tailor it here, it's going to be so amazing. And it goes back to PPP, right? Profits, planet, and people, kind of integrating all three together to be successful in sustainability.
Yep, absolutely. And you have to do it as a team, you have to do it with your tenants, and you have to keep thinking about it. And it does create a profit, right? So even though you're saving money, and not just for the tenants, but overall and for the whole community.
Yeah, most definitely. And what does it mean to the Union Dallas, and Red Development? I know that those are kind of a little bit of your views, but did they share the same views as you? If you could just talk a little bit about that.
Um, so it, yes. Do you like that? Yes.
I love that.
Um,
Like-minded.
yeah, Red does, of course, right? They continue to look at those and the team members continue to look at that. It's very important. You mentioned Jeff earlier, to have a team that not only understands what the goal is, but shares that same thought process. And so it is important. And your tenants have to have it as well because they have to participate in that, right? If they're not in the space, is it okay if we, turn down the air a little bit so that we're saving a little bit when we're not here on the weekends or the holidays or whatever the case may be? So it's very important to have that cohesiveness between your tenants and your staff and your company that you work for. Red sold the property in February of 2020 to a company out of Korea, and they are incredibly aware of what needs to be done to keep the energy efficiency and stay green and making sure we're doing the right thing for the environment. So it's definitely a team focus.
Yeah, and sustainability hits all areas, right? It hits finding new tenant retention. It also hits the future of workplace. I know that you participated in that session with Granite, and of course the Union Dallas, and you guys were just on top of it all because with COVID we went through so many phases of it, right? The first phase was, well, what is this? The second phase was about vaccines. And the third phase that we're in is this new normal for workplace, or in general, how we're going to live, work, and play. And so I think that, the discussion that we had in that session, it was just such wonderful, thoughtful, intentional things that were done for the tenants, for the building, for the real estate company, for the developer. And I think that that's really important in sustainability. So I'm so glad that you were able to share your experiences and your best practices with the rest of the district, because it was really exciting because you have some really large tenants, national tenants, and international tenants in their building. So that's something really hard to to manage when it comes to sustainability. So it's just so exciting to hear you in the workplace session to really highlight it and talk about it, and kind of just taking the reins and going, well, we just have to do this. And so it was really exciting to see, how you talk about sustainability right now, but in action, and looking
Agree.
at it from different aspects.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting, you're right. It was definitely an interesting time. And I feel like I have a little bit different perspective on it than some people because I moved during that time. So seeing the differences between Arizona and Texas, and then also understanding that I moved here and I instantly was living that live, work, play on my property because I was living in our residence, I was working in the building, and I was shopping in our grocery store. My whole life was this 800,000 square feet. So understanding that piece of it and what that meant and what we needed to do for the property as a whole, to make sure that everybody was feeling comfortable and at home on this little city block, right? And that was great for me. It made my transition easy, knowing that we had that here, and not everybody has that. So
Well,
it
it's
was a
really
little easier
wonderful.
for us to transition.
Well, it was really wonderful to hear how, Red Development, the union, your new owners, and your team all have this like mind thinking about, the realistic whole picture of sustainability, because sustainability is just not one definition, it's multiple definitions. And, really having that team and that knowledge, because I know that Jeff is really well versed in all these practices. And so, he's always sharing with the, other engineers in the district, as well as, with you, all these great things that you guys are doing, Patricia, with your team. I do want to talk a little bit, and I think it's a really good transition of, why are you guys members of the Dallas 2030 district? And why do you think it's so important for others to be a part of the district as well?
So when I first moved here, of course, the union was already part of the district. And Bill Mobius, of course, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to participate in this and continue the union's involvement." I didn't quite know what that meant when I said yes and sure, but I knew that I wanted to be out there and I wanted to become part of the community and understand what was happening here in Texas and in Dallas specifically. Um, so I will say that we are members because it's a shared understanding of where we want to go and what we want to do. And it helps us to be part of the group because we can now bounce those ideas off with other people, and it's a shared knowledge. So the things that I might know, I could share with the team, and the things that they know. We had a wonderful conversation with Jacob the other day about saving the energy and understanding where our electric bills are coming from and how we manage that process, and the benchmarking of it. And it is so important to know those things and learning something. I learned something new from him when we were in that meeting that I hadn't already learned from him. And so you're constantly learning how to make that happen. And I think it's important to share those benchmarkings with each other. And I think it's important for people to be part of 2030 for that reason. I think that if you want to take your building or even your personal home to the next level of saving things, I think you need to have that involvement with the community. And I think Dallas 2030 really pushes and shares that information very well.
Yeah. And you talk about those best practices. I know we talked about it just a few minutes ago, but really being able to share those best practices, because I remember that there was a building and they were having this issue and they just couldn't solve it. And the engineer in one building didn't know the engineering and the engineer in the other building, and they had a solution to that problem. So, when we had a session, they got to meet and they were able to solve the problem like within that hour. So it was just so exciting to see that.
Yeah.
we're doing a lot of these sessions, like you brought up Jacob Steiner at Smart Energy 360. He was doing a session just over at the Renaissance, because that's one of our members as well, over on Elm Street. And, John, who's the owner, talked about the building itself. So, Jacob was able to give you that background. And then John was able to apply all of what Jacob was saying into that specific building. And, those are the kinds of things that I feel that buildings, property managers, facilities, tenants really need to be sharing and absorbing as well. So it's just really exciting that that networking is there. And then, all the other things that come with it, like the education and the trainings and the grants and all the things that are available out there for you to be able to get one step closer to our 2030 goals. That's our goal at the Dallas 2030 district, is for you to have a healthy, prosperous building. And that's how we're going to make the city of Dallas more sustainable, right? One building at a time.
Absolutely. I fully agree. And you're right. It's helpful to have a community of people who can share, like you said, the grants, and knowing that there are things that are out there that I can apply for to help me change all of my lighting in my garage to a more efficient lighting system, right? It's, you can't always afford it. And so it's nice to know that those programs are out there for you. But the benchmarking for me, I think, is the biggest part. I think understanding where I was and where I am and where I want to go in a big picture in a chart is so helpful. You see the bigger picture.
I totally agree with you. And I find it to be so important, because if you don't measure, you don't know. And so it's
Exactly.
so important to know where your building is and where you want to take it. And so, we have these three types of members, right? You're the building owner and manager type of member that we have, and you're our core, right? We also have our professional members, like Jacob and Dan and all these others that create a marketplace for you to go to. So it's so exciting, for you to be able to say, hey, I've got this problem, but I've got folks that know the solutions, been there, done that, understand the best practices, and then apply, the different programs and incentives out there to these projects. And then really understanding that, hey, these can be financed and through the utility representative, or it can be financed through PACE, and really understanding that market and what's out there. So I think that's another great thing about the district. And then we have our community members, right? We collaborate with them, and we're able to say, hey, I know that you're probably doing a little bit of the same thing we're doing. How about we collaborate and make it from a good event to a great event? So those three types of members, I think, are very effective in the district, because we're able to help building owners and managers. We're able to help you guys get one step closer to the 2030 goals. So that's why it's exciting. Patricia, I wanted also to ask you, why should other buildings that are not in the district participate and join the district as well?
Well, I think that understanding what the district can do for you and help you, I think as building managers, we get so wrapped up in the day to day. I have got this with this tenant, I've got this going on, I've got that, I got a water leak, whatever the case may be, that we don't get to the point where we're really, like we said, talked about sharing those best practices and understanding that knowledge that we all have. I think it's important for others to become members, even if their main goal isn't, if they're right now, they're not at that spot where they want to look at the energy efficiency, or they think they're doing a good job. It's always nice to go out there and see what others are doing. And like you said, the engineers get together. Jeff is a wealth of knowledge. And so sharing that information with others, and then he learns from another engineer what they're doing in their building. Our buildings are all different, right? And the union is unique in the fact that it is a multi-use facility. And so as these become more popular types of properties to build, it's important to know that you have to do different things for each piece of it, right? The residential runs slightly different because they're in there 24/7. The office tower runs slightly different. Your restaurants are not going to be quite as efficient as you would ever like them to be, but you can get them there and you can share some things with them. So every facet of the property is a little different and learning those pieces. So it's really important just to make those connections. I've learned it being both part of BOMA Greater Dallas and also being part of Dallas 2030. I learned different things from each piece and then put it all together. And that's how we run this property. And we love it every day. And we look at her and say, she's beautiful, but how do we take her to the next step?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that that's such a wonderful answer because, you know, Jeff and your team, everyone's so humble. So when I have a question, I ask Jeff, he doesn't look at me like, you don't know that. He goes into so
Yeah.
much detail. I want to call him my Wikipedia because he knows so much about everything. And so, when anytime I have a question, I can just, reach out to him and he's paragraph after paragraph, because he's so passionate about the building and he goes into so much detail. So, the Dallas 2030 district, I think that the group that we have is very close and very everyone steps up. If there's something that needs to be done, I always have so many volunteers saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to take that. Our executive committee, which is, Bill Mobius from JLL and Susan Alvarez from the city of Dallas and Jerry Kettler, who started us off here, and Frank Forrest from Carlisle. I mean, they're always stepping up and everybody, Patricia, you always step up. I know that you're always raising your hand saying, Salima, I'm here for you. I want to help. So it's wonderful to have such an intimate group and really having the same mindset of going to the next level and making Dallas this wonderful, sustainable city where you can, live, work, and play. So it's just exciting for me as the executive director to be able to tell people that, that I just
No, I agree.
an overwhelming group that just is always willing to help and always willing to say, no, we're not going to say no. We're going to do this. And,
Yeah.
really kind of just coming together and doing it.
And the team does it just, if I haven't shared this with you recently, not just within the group or, hey, I'll help you with the impact report, or I'll do this, or I'll host the event, but also from an individual. I recently ran into a wall when I was trying to do both my LEED Gold certification and my Energy Star. And I reached out to Gerald actually, and he started looking at some things. And then of course, Ben Manna over at Five they are our energy advisors. And they jumped in, and now everyone's looking at my Energy Star, trying to figure out how do we separate certain pieces so that we can get what we need for the tower. So everybody's willing to help all the way down the line, even if they're not my direct vendor, right? But they'll jump in and help me because we're part of the community. We're part of the Dallas 2030.
Yes, I think that that is such a wonderful outlook and attitude to have, that we're just here to help. And if that means that it's somebody that I don't know or it's somebody that I do know, I'm open and ready to share all the stuff that we've done, because we've done such a great job with it. So thank you for that, Patricia. I love that. Thinking on a macro level and then thinking on a micro level, it's not easy to do that, switching those lenses and modes. So I really admire and appreciate you doing that, because it's not a one-dimensional solution. There are multiple things to look at and really take the 360 and say, hey, this is the 360 of sustainability. So it's really exciting to hear you as a building manager talking like that, because it's a part of facilities, it's a part of real estate. So that's really exciting. That transitions me into, I mentioned earlier that the Union Dallas is helping us get one step closer to our 2030 goals.
Right.
If you could talk a little bit about what you've done, what the future kind of looks like for you, you know, for the sustainability outlook, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. I know that you may not be able to go into so many details because this is a shorter discussion, but I'd love for you to just maybe perhaps highlight some of it, because this is your opportunity. I know that I keep hearing from you all these wonderful things you're doing, and I want our viewers and listeners to also be able to say, hey, wow, I want to go to the union. This sounds so exciting.
Well, of course. So Red kind of kicked it off from the get-go, right? In the design of the building. So we have a unique setup with our HVAC system. So we have 22 floors of office space. We have 4 500-ton Daikin air-cooled chilling units up on the roof. You saw those when you came and did the tour. Um, those are huge because the air-cooled chillers allow the property to save somewhere in the ballpark of 12 million gallons of water usage. I had to think about that. This is one of those things I learned from Jeff, and he does, and I make my little notes, and I'm like, okay, I've got it. But that's a lot. And then with those, we have two 3,000-gallon tanks down in the lower parking garage that collect the condensate from the HVAC systems. And then that, along with supplemented with some city water, actually goes back out into our irrigation system. So reusing the water that we have, saving the water that we can, and then making sure, of course, right, that we do all the right things when we're using the irrigation water, making sure that we're saving it, making sure that we're not wasting it somewhere. So those were huge things that were put in to the building from the get-go. Of course, like everybody else during the pandemic, we moved to MERV 13 air filters, which of course helps the air quality. And then we continue to look for ways to manage things. So we've got lots of, we've got 3 different fountains on the property. We use that same condensate water. We also do some treated water. We're always looking for new ways. We also have hoping to bring more people by bicycle into the office rather than by car. We do have a big storage room that has all the bike racks up on the wall and down on the ground and the whole 9 yards, and it is full. I will say that we do share that with our residential residents as well, but always looking for something new to do for the building. So green landscaping, making sure that it doesn't need as much water, making sure that we're managing the HVAC system appropriately when we're on holiday or after hours or whatever, when it gets hot, watching those peaks and those highs and lows. So, projects moving forward, of course, like everyone, we want to move everything to LED lighting. So we've got 9 floors of garage space that we would like to change into LED lighting at some point. And just continuing to monitor that HVAC system. It's unique, so it's nice to have it, but we've got to manage it the right way. And so Jeff has a whole program and he knows how to do it. And he turns it on and off and does all the things he needs to do. And I'd have to let him do it because it's too much for me. I'm like, yeah, you're right over my head. Are we being energy efficient? He's like, yep. I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know.
Well, I can see the green spaces behind you because, I know that we've toured the building a couple of times and, I know that you always are highlighting all the green spaces. And so, I just find that to be so amazing. And you are on the 9th floor?
I'm on the 8th floor.
You're on the 8th floor. And I remember walking out going, people are enjoying this space. People would be drinking coffee out there. Tenants would be. And then, I saw people walking, back and forth, kind of getting their steps in. And it was just.
Well, we have a nice little fitness center over here too. So
maybe that's why. But yes, I would see so many people out there whenever I'd come see you at the union and just love the kind of that not rooftop, but balcony. garden there. And, I see that your plants are, succulents and things that take less water. And it's just so wonderful to see the building and how beautiful it is, as well as it being so energy efficient, conserving water. And then also the transportation part, right? It's lifestyle living. So a lot of people can just walk downstairs to the grocery store, grab something from the restaurants, and
Yeah.
then go back to their multifamily unit. So it's that lifestyle living and that walkability. Your walkability rate is rather high as well. And then you're around so many walkable places, just
Oh,
across the street from you is Victory Park. Across from you is, Harwood District.
we've
So
got
for
Clyde
any
Warren is within like walking distance.
and
So
it's like you
yeah.
just walk out, you pick left, straight, right, or back, and you're somewhere. So it's just so nice to see. I remember that I was at the Union Dallas and we were wanting to walk over to Crescent, which is one of our other members. And it was just such an easy walk. It took us just a couple of minutes and it was just great to be able to do that. From the Union to the Crescent. So
Yeah.
just really exciting. I just love how you are in the center of Uptown. And that's what makes it so walkable. So that's really wonderful.
Agreed. It is a wonderful thing. And you've got Ross Perot, you've got the AAC, so you got all your sporting events, everything is within walking distance, and it's fantastic. You're right.
You guys are doing an amazing job helping us get one step closer to the 2030 goals. And I'm so glad that you and Jeff and your team are able to share all of these best practices, and really kind of say, hey, during this best practice, we messed up here. Please don't do that for your building. And so
How do
that
we fix that?
well, that's the really nice part about sharing best practices, right? Because there is a part of it where it's trial and error because you've never done it before. And you're really helping other buildings to avoid these mistakes. And sometimes they're costly, right? And so you
Yeah.
want to make sure that others are doing the same for you. I know that, Bill Mobius over at Bank of America Plaza, he does some amazing, him and his team do amazing work there, just like you do. And so, he's always like, Salima, this is what we're doing. I want to share it. And so it's so wonderful to see that. And then our professional member, Jerry Kettler, he
Yep.
is always wanting to share some kind of best practice.
Always.
And it's so wonderful because Jerry's like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. And it really was. And I was
Yeah.
like, Jerry, you need to
He
get,
starts getting into it, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What are you talking about?
like
That
it
was
was
huge.
so
I could have
simple.
never done that.
And you know what he says? No, Slima, it was really simple. And I'm like, wow, you
Okay.
make it look easy, I guess, because when you're talking about it, I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Agreed. And that's the reason that we have such an important, why it's so important to be part of the district and understanding that it's those relationships and that knowledge that somebody else has and their willingness to share it with you.
Yeah, it's like big brother, big sister, right? You're helping, and sometimes you're getting the help. And so, your role changes as a building owner. Sometimes it's more of a teacher and a trainer, and sometimes it's more of a learner. So I
Yeah.
just find that to be so exciting. And, everybody learns every day because I get calls from buildings. They're like, I didn't know you could do that, or I didn't know that the city was working on this. So, Susan Alvarez is a wonderful help. I don't know when she sleeps, but she's always on the go and it's
She's a
really
busy
great.
person.
She's a very busy person, but you know what? She always makes time for us. And that is something that I love. Just like you do.
Agreed.
You make time for us, you make us a priority. And, on behalf of everybody, we really appreciate you, your team, the building, and your participation in the district because we find it to be so important to have your input when it comes to future sessions, the annual impact report, your Energy Star portfolio manager. So your contributions are so appreciated to the district because you're helping us get one step closer to our 2030 goals, which is so exciting. And we appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you for having us as part of it. We enjoy it. I can't imagine not being part of the district. And love I love everybody that's on it and the help that they give and helping us create that high performance district that we're trying to get with all the low emissions and the energy saving and everything that we're trying to do. So thank you guys for everything. It's fantastic and it's a great group to be a part of.
Well, thank you so much, Patricia, for this wonderful discussion. I can't thank you enough. You guys are doing really amazing work, and I'm so glad you had the opportunity to share it with our viewers and listeners. I also want to thank you for helping us create this high performance building district in Dallas, just making the city more sustainable.
Well, again, we appreciate it and the union looks forward to continuing the relationship. So, and no
Well,
matter where I go, whether I'm here or somewhere else, I look forward to it. The relationship is fantastic.
oh, thank you so much. Before we close our conversation, I'd like to invite you to reach out and see how you can join us to make Dallas a more sustainable place to live, work, and play. I hope that you can join us again for our next discussion with the district episode. As always, I appreciate your support of the Dallas 2030 district. And thank you again, Patricia.
Thank you, Salima.